Ladies and gentlemen, how many of you have read Financial Times already today? May I see the hands? Okay, good. I did too. Actually, I went to the website to look for the few keywords. I looked for words dominate and domination, and I looked for the word winning. Those three combined got me 43,000 results. I also looked for words cooperate and cooperation. Those two, however, I got only 3,000 hits. And I had a look at the business books too. And what I have seen from the ancient The Art of War of Sun Tzu, for a modern classic, How Successful Leaders Win, to a quite recent one, if you are not first, you are last. And overarching theme is be the biggest, be the best, destroy your competition. Be the winner who takes it all. And indeed, we see this happening. Number of businesses try to dominate their industries. On international stage, there are certain countries who follow aggressive foreign policies. On the individual level, richest 1% just got richer and richer in the last couple of decades. And the richest 0.1% even more so. And it happens in other walks of life too. Let me give you an example from sports. FC Barcelona and Real Madrid, two truly internationally successful football clubs, admired by many, that however dwarf everything in their home country in Spain. In the Spanish Premier League, La Liga, those two clubs, among 20, take over 50% of the television revenue. Remaining 18 get the rest. How long do you think the Spanish football will be interesting to watch? I leave it up to you. It happens in academia too. In the US, we have over 1,100 universities. And they are quite often financed by endowments, by the private money. Among these 1,100, 10 of them get 1/3 of the total sum. Ladies and gentlemen, if your son happens to go to study in the US, or your daughter, and doesn't get to these top schools, how good do you think the education can be? I leave it up to you. Now, the question is, why do we act this way? Why does it happen? And in order to understand this, we need to understand the very nature of the human, of us. It has been already in the 18th century that our neighbor from next door, Geneva, Jean-Jacques Rousseau, has said on his discourse on inequality that our natural, innate self-love, amour de soi, is rather positive. And it is only through life and upbringing in the society that it becomes amour-propre, pride or self-esteem. And this is the force that drives us towards each other and inequality. 1 century later, Rousseau's English colleague, who was the philosopher and polymath, Herbert Spencer, has developed the theory of survival of the fittest in his book, Principles of Biology. The theory that states that only the most able individuals will be able to thrive in the society. This theory is sometimes referred to as the social Darwinism. Rousseau and Spencer thus both provided with the intellectual foundation and explicitly supported the winner-take-it-all mindset. The mindset that seems to thrive in today's world, where we have a number of global trends. And let me just mention the two of them. Technological advance. In the technology, only the biggest companies with the most customers, the fastest one, thrive. The other ones disappear. And then we have resource scarcity. It's even more simple. Either you get them or you don't. These trends in this economic context seem to make winner-takes-it-all attitude indispensable, the default way to go about business and life, in fact. These three elements taken together, business media and business books, philosophy, and the overall economical context, create self-reinforcing and perpetuating mechanism that fosters winner-take-it-all attitude among us. And today, throughout our presentations, we will all ask the same question. What are the practical implications for business? What are the practical implications for us? Business leaders like you of today and business leaders of tomorrow, like us, MBAs, seem to be confined for this continuous and relentless strive for dominance. And there are some companies that do achieve that position. And I couldn't think about the example more prominent than the Standard Oil of John Rockefeller. The company that has been incorporated in 1870 very quickly became extremely powerful, very profitable. Rockefeller controlled everything, from the oil exploration through the barrels and even the forest behind them to produce those barrels, railroads, trains to transport them, and even some processing facilities. He controlled the entire value chain. He went even beyond that. He controlled the banks to finance all those activities. Standard Oil, at its peak, controlled over 90% of the global crude processing capabilities. This success, however, hasn't gone unnoticed in the society and politics. In the 1890s, the Sherman Act was enacted, the first antitrust law in the US. What happened to the company afterwards? Well, in fact, not much. Company had very opaque legal structure and very successful legal department, you have to say, and it has taken 21 years for the US government to break it down, and this eventually happened in 1911. Now, you must be thinking, this is old. This is 19th century, it doesn't apply anymore. We have moved on. Is it? In India, we have the company like Reliance Industries of Mukesh Ambani, the man who lives in his own skyscraper. This sprawling industrial conglomerate is referred to as the most feared Indian private company. And even there, as you might have recently read in the Economist article, the social discontent is growing. Winners take it all. Are there any other ways of going about business in this world? Yes, there are. And let me give you another example. But before I do that, let me ask you yet another question. How many of you have owned in the past or do now owned the HP computer? May I see the hands? So statistically, I think you are overrepresented. The HP, in the middle of the 90s, the HP controlled 20% of the global PC market. It has been unquestionable leader in the industry that has been growing at 15% at the time. They have been the winner who has been taking it all. Yet, as many of us, they had this mindset. It's not enough. Let us further improve the financial performance and return to the shareholders. What they have figured out was to outsource the production of some simple components, simple at the beginning, to the Taiwanese manufacturers. They did so. The performance improved. Everybody was very happy. With the time, though, the Taiwanese manufacturers learned and were able to produce more and more sophisticated components, eventually being able to complete and produce the whole PC sets. It was not bad for HP. The financial improvements has improved even further. What happened eventually, though, was that those manufacturers, and you might know the names by now, Acer or Asus, started to compete directly with HP and fighting for the profit in this industry. The rest is in history, and I don't need to explain that. So these attempts were not very successful. Are there any ways of being successful? Yes, there are. Tesla Motors. And for those of you who don't know the company, Tesla Motors is a relatively small car company, but it is the world leader in electric mobility, in electric vehicles. And Tesla, in June this year, quite recently, announced that it will share their leading electric technology that only they have, and they have developed for many years with the competition. You might think, how does this make sense? They will give their technology to the others? It's totally counterintuitive. Yet, if you think about this, it makes complete sense. Not only they will be able to create much bigger market for electric mobility in the future, and thus be able to take maybe smaller piece, but of a much, much bigger pie, but also they will work with their competition to build the infrastructure, which is quite expensive and difficult task, facing many regulatory difficulties in many countries around the world. Ladies and gentlemen, at this point, we've seen it all. And now I would like to invite you to spend a moment with me to reflect, to think about your business, your companies that you are coming from. How is their strategy? How often it is about being the leading firm, being the best firm, being the biggest firm? And how often do you try to achieve that? And I would not ask you to raise the hands, but I'm sure it will be the majority. Winner takes it all is a delusion in today's world. And think about how often have you stopped to go in this direction, and have you thought about cooperation with the others or with the society? And with that, I would like to invite you to the workshop, and we would love to hear from you about your strategies, your ways of going about this. And our workshop is very convenient because it's just outside on the right. So there's another argument to come to us, because we would like to see you all there.